Hey, ESPN, I'm Jack. I'm the co-founder of Crack.com.
And I'm Miles, a former lobbyist that loves soccer and gets very nervous when I'm pulled over by the police.
And we're the hosts of The Daily Zeitgeist, a daily comedic news podcast that covers politics, pop culture, and we're both big sports fans. I'm actually named after my grandfather, legendary NBA coach Dr. Jack Ramsey.
Oh, well, I'm named after Miles Davis, a legendary heroin addict who is not my grandfather.
It's not a competition. So search The Daily Zeitgeist on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are given away for free.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the deck. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Give me your boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, go?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in, center stage on the mic, and we're...
We are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN2. What do we do?
Give the people what they want.
As we always do, we will start the podcast with exclusive podcast material for our podcast listeners, our favorite group of fans. Shout to you that listen to the show every single day. Make it part of your daily routine. Tell your friends to subscribe to the podcast. Go and review our podcast, rate our podcast, tweet at ESPN and tell them that you love our podcast. Save our jobs. Interesting report has come out. There's been certain sources that have said that LeBron James is eager for Kyrie to get traded. Other sources have even taken it further than that. Well, LeBron James has responded. He has said that that is not true and that everybody needs to get a new source. Are you surprised that LeBron has gone on wax to deny this?
I'm not surprised at all. You got to understand something. The Cleveland Cavaliers were in a position to get another all-star level performer this offseason for Kyrie Irving. Mm-hmm. His name was Paul George.
Yep, they're very close to a Paul George trade.
They weren't ready to do that. All of a sudden, he ends up at OKC. Kyrie makes it publicly that he wants to get traded. Now they go from getting a player of that caliber to hoping to get a blue-chip player and or multiple prospects. So LeBron James, while he and Kyrie may not be seeing eye to eye about each other's future, he clearly wants to win a championship, and he understands the best route to that happening is playing with a guy that he put up big numbers in the finals with the last couple of years. The first year, he obviously got hurt in the early part of the series. So with that being said, he doesn't want him to leave. He's not eager for him to go, but who y'all gonna give us in return?
Exactly. So there's great reporting from our colleagues just shows that Kevin Pritchard of the Pacers on a group text thread confirmed that he wanted to trade Paul George in three-way trade that would send Paul George to Cleveland and Kyrie out. Here's the thing. When you're Kyrie, you're like, wait a second. You guys were confirmed that you didn't want me here? Like, you confirmed that I was gone and then someone else backed out of the deal? That has a lot to do with his mindset. You know what I mean? That has a lot to do with him asking to be traded. Like, if someone told me that they confirmed they wanted to ship me out for somebody else, I would feel differently about it for the rest of my time there. It does make a little bit of sense if you put yourself in Kyrie's shoes. What do you think?
I think that depends on the level of greatness attributed to the player. Only 5 or 10 guys can actually feel that way and it be realistic. That's what happens in professional sports. Shaquille O'Neal is one of the most dominant players of all time. Mm-hmm. He played for 6 teams. Mm-hmm. You don't have a guarantee that you're going to play your entire career in one city like Dirk or Reggie or Kobe. That's just not afforded to everyone because things change in sports basically as fast and almost seems like it takes place in dog years. So for Kyrie to be as young as he is and playing alongside LeBron James, in a lot of ways playing in his shadow, I can see why he's taking it personal, looking around the league at some of the point guards that have their own show. Like, man, what would it be like to be Russell?
Look at James Harden. He was coming off the bench, and then he got traded to the Rockets, and now he's an MVP. That could be me too.
And so with that as a backdrop, I can see why he would be offended, and I also see why the Cavs didn't do the deal. How do you end the NBA Finals with 3 All-Stars and end up trading Love to Denver and Kyrie to Indiana? That wouldn't have been a good deal anyway.
It's a good point. And then There's this about LeBron's denial, though, because LeBron is very savvy. He's saying, I did not say that, check your sources. That doesn't mean that he doesn't feel that way. You know, he's saying that I didn't say what you're saying I said, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't want Kyrie to be traded. And I can understand if I was LeBron James, I can't get inside of his head. I can understand why I would feel that way. You don't want to run with me? I don't want to run with you either. You know what I mean?
Well, I want to make sure we get this on wax. It was basically saying that LeBron is unhappy with Kyrie's trade request. Mm-hmm. And he said it's not facts. People, boo, get another source. Enjoying my summer, you do the same.
Well, the report was that he was eager for Cleveland to trade Kyrie, not that he was unhappy with the request. The report was basically that LeBron was eager to see Kyrie shipped out, and LeBron knows how this could potentially play out. This could play out where they end up on the same team, and that's why he's saying he doesn't want that on wax.
Well, he doesn't want on wax that he's extremely unhappy with Kyrie's trade request and that he would have physically do harm to Kyrie.
We're not addressing that one. We're going to keep moving on that one. One thing we do during this podcast exclusive content is we will always give the people what they want. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail, and we'll play it on the show just like this.
Hi, Jalen Jacoby. This is Derek from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm a Pelicans fan. I've been a Michigan fan. Fab Five. Jalen, Jimmy, Reed, Chris, Juwan. That was my squad. Okay, I want to know about the Pelicans. Do you think at the end of the year the Pelicans will make the playoffs? And 2, do you think Boogie Cousins will be traded at the deadline? And will they get value if the season is being tanked? Meaning, if they're losing, will they still get value for Boogie Cousins if they trade him at the deadline?
Thanks for the love. Appreciate the shout. Shout out. Always has a warm spot in my heart when people talk about my Fab Five brothers, and you take the time and energy to mention all of them, and you support our fine program. That should be the kind of individual that gets a shirt from this television show. With that being said, a couple of things I want to address. While Boogie Cousins and Anthony Davis are both terrific all-star elite level players in their own right, in a long-term setting, based on how the game is being played today, I think the Pelicans ultimately are better off trying to sell Boogie high and get as much in return as they can for him versus paying he and Anthony Davis $175 million contracts each.
Exactly. And I think that Derek from New Orleans asked 2 interesting questions that I don't really have the answer to. It's like, will the Pelicans make the playoffs? I could certainly see that happening. I could see this group gelling. I could see this like two-headed monster down low really working, and you mix in Rondo and Drew Holiday. That could be an 8-seed, 7-seed team, or it could be a deep lottery team. And is Boogie going to end the season on the Pelicans? I really don't know. I have no idea. Here's how they got Boogie. Like, imagine being in a restaurant, you order a steak. They come out and give you a steak, and it's perfect. And then the waiter or waitress comes back and says, you know what? We also have another steak that the kitchen cooked. We're just going to give it to you for free. So you're sitting at the table. You've got 2 steaks. They just kind of landed in your lap. You don't need 2 steaks. That's kind of what happened to the Pelicans when they traded for Boogie Cousins and they gave up Buddy Hield and some others.
The future of the Pelicans, other than the fact that they re-signed Drew Holiday clearly, added Rondo for a year, and have a terrific future MVP in Anthony Davis, is going to be based on how they're able to parlay the talents of Boogie Cousins. Because he's going to have multiple takers. And again, I'm going to simplify this for everybody. Look at the people that were all-stars this season that can potentially move. Those are the only guys that are in play when you talk about deals like this, and or ones that currently didn't get long-term deals with their new team, with their current squad. So with that being said, now that Kyrie's talking about being traded, Boogie's going to be a part of that if it's a 3-way in one shape or form. Isaiah Thomas hasn't signed a long-term deal in Boston just yet. His name is going to be floated around. The relationship that Eric Bledsoe has with LeBron James is going to continue to be discussed, especially now that James Jones is a part of the front office, Carmelo Anthony with the Knicks as well. These are going to be the names that you hear tossed around, but I don't think Boogie's long-term future is with the Pelicans.
Neither do I. It'd be very interesting to see what happens in New Orleans this season. Thanks so much for the call. Let's listen to another voicemail.
Jalen Jacoby, Austin Ness from Detroit. Big shout out. My question is this. Is it acceptable for anyone who is incapable of growing waves on top of their head to wear a do-rag? And I say it that way to avoid any cultural tags. And just keep in mind, don't get fired. This could be the don't get fired topic of the day. But I want to know, what's your opinion on wearing a do-rag for fashion compared to actual function? Let me know, guys. Thanks.
And now, the Don't Get Fired topic of the day.
Jalen, can I speak on this first?
Sure.
I'm not a judgmental person. You know what I mean? Like, as long as what someone else is doing doesn't really directly affect my life, then I don't really care, you know? So, like, while I do think that certain fashion statements are corny, they're not something that I would do, it doesn't really change my life just because I have to see it with my eyeballs. That being said, I can only speak for myself. You would never, ever, not on Halloween, not at a costume theme party. No, you would never, ever see me in a do-rag. Ever. Your thoughts, Mr. Rose?
I'm pretty sure you once said to yourself, I'll never whiten my teeth.
Definitely
and
said that.
before you know it,
got them
you
the Chris White strips all day. Yep.
Rest in peace, Prodigy. Everybody knows how much I love Ma Deep. But I remember the verse, I'm going to live in the projects forever.
Oh, yeah.
And what ends up happening when you get your first deal? You're moving out of the projects. There's a level of growth that takes place as we mature. So with that being said, I'm not going to make the do-rag cultural. Now, it does have a majority.
Sure, it does lean towards a certain type of person.
No question.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think the do-rag is for everyone. You don't necessarily need to be trying to keep your cornrows or braids intact, trying to do the same thing with your waves in order to rock a do-rag. As a matter of fact, when you do sport it, please send us a picture.
Thank you so much, Jalen Rose, for allowing all of us to wear a do-rag.
We let y'all listen to rap music.
No, you didn't. Let's listen to one more voicemail.
Jalen Jacoby, big shout out to Detroit. With all the talk about LeBron leaving and going to L.A., why is we not talking about Cleveland trading LeBron? Get something for or leave with nothing. Let's talk about that. Shouts out to the D. Shout out the best.
What up, though? Appreciate the support. Thank you for the call.
Shout out.
A couple of things. LeBron James has a no-trade clause.
Yeah, and you know what? No one really spoke about it until recently, except for this program. We were the only people that were like, LeBron James has a no-trade clause. Only Dirk, LeBron, and Carmelo have no-trade clauses. We've been talking about that for a year now, and no one would ever trade LeBron. Why would anyone trade LeBron? Right now, that would be very much on the table if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's like, fine, Kyrie wants out. You know what? Everybody's gone. Give us a bunch of picks. Give us your rookies. Give us your young players. We can build a nice nucleus that will form by 2019 with your picks and young players and clear out Kyrie and LeBron. But that is impossible because of his contract. And one of the things I loved during all of this is when the news reports came out, LeBron James will not waive his no-trade clause. Of course he won't waive his no-trade clause. You don't put LeBron's name in trades like that without him saying anything, please. Jalen, let's give the people what they want. The Cleveland Cavaliers have just secured their point guard of the future, maybe. Derrick Rose has signed a tiny little $2.1 million one-year deal. What does this say about the future of Kyrie Irving with the Cavs?
It doesn't say much about Kyrie's future because these moves aren't necessarily connected. They were going to need to fill this gap of another primary ball handler, somebody else in the backcourt that can play quality minutes and be productive anyway. losing Darren Williams, who ended up being a disaster in the NBA Finals. So I don't think signing Derrick Rose has any precursor to what's going to happen as it relates to the Cavs trading Kyrie Irving sooner rather than later.
So I understand why people didn't watch Knicks games last year, but as a diehard Knicks fan, I watched a few myself. Derrick Rose wasn't bad. He was finishing around the hoop. He had 18 points a game, which is very good for a point guard. He was pretty much trash from shooting from three. Are you concerned about his lack of ability to hit threes when we know that LeBron James loves to surround himself with players that hit three-point shots?
He's not going to start. That's basically how he's going to get his game going. If Kyrie Irving isn't traded, their backcourt is going to stay intact. It'll be Kyrie and J.R. Smith with LeBron and Love up front. So Derrick Rose is going to be required to come in off the bench and be that spark offensively that you just described. He did show signs of explosion last year, getting to the paint, shooting his floater, shooting his runner. Did struggle shooting his jump shot. That's never truly been a strength of his game. But what I was impressed with, it seems like the power and explosiveness, not only in his legs, but in his upper body seemed to be back, able to deliver contact and still finish over the defender. That's what I was more impressed with last year from Derrick Rose.
As the roster is currently constructed, it certainly doesn't seem like Derrick Rose would start. However, there are reports that in Rose's meeting with the Cavs, they were mapping their course to the finals without Kyrie Irving. If Derrick Rose is in fact the starting point guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers and they trade Kyrie for some sort of package, would you still consider them the favorites to go to the finals in the East?
No, and hit the brakes for me real quick, please.
Okay, sir.
I know having LeBron James on the roster, whether with the Miami Heat or the Cleveland Cavaliers, have meant a rite of passage to the NBA Finals. 7 straight seasons, he's done it 8 overall. But if the Cleveland Cavaliers don't adequately replace Kyrie Irving, don't just anticipate that they're going to have a free ride to the NBA Finals. If you do think so, you're not paying attention to what's going on in Boston, the moves that they've already done and what they still can do with the assets they require. So I'm not going to say without Kyrie Irving that they're automatically going to make it to the NBA Finals just because they have LeBron James and Kevin Love still on the roster.
Well, LeBron James has been very quiet while all of this is storming around him in regards to Kyrie Irving asking for a trade. But he did tweet some support of Derrick Rose. He tweeted, Rose emoji, Rose emoji, Rose emoji, Rose emoji, Rose emoji, let's rock G. Was he talking about Derrick Rose joining the Cavs, The Bachelorette, or was he talking about Jalen Jacoby being on in the afternoon?
He was talking about Jalen Jacoby being on in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron, I'm pretty sure of all of the things he watches on television, this has to be his number one program.
It's got to be number one.
And here's the other thing. There's a level of respect that goes with another player that has actually been an MVP in the league. You got to remember, when LeBron was competing in Miami and Rose was healthy early in his career playing at that level, they were going head-to-head when the Bulls were able to make it to that level. So I'm pretty sure that he's earned LeBron's respect. LeBron understands that he was a productive player and somebody now on the roster that can come in and give him that bench spark, be another ball handler, and also somebody that can create some enthusiasm and excitement. Like, the one thing about Derrick Rose is he's really shifty.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden when he gets going, he gets to twisting, he gets to twirling. He's not the guy that was dunking on players like he was earlier in his career. But that level of excitement, I'm pretty sure LeBron's looking forward to try to throw him some lobs.
And finally, we're going to go to Richard Jefferson and his podcast. You know, Richard Jefferson joined the podcast game. They sip wine while they're on the road and have open microphones, and things get said. And he addressed Kyrie Irving and has a little sympathy for the young man and the tumult that has been around him recently.
I will say that he's had a tougher time, if you look at from start to where we are right now, of the ups and downs of a franchise more than most. Even though we've been successful and even though we've won a championship and he's been an all-star, there's still been so much of a wave. And to be like, yo, we're going to sit here for a whole year on whether or not LeBron's coming back, that's got to be tough on anybody, everybody.
Yeah. So the devil is in the details. And that wasn't only about Kyrie. Ha, ha, ha. That was about the rest of the team. Basically, what Richard Jefferson said is, all of us got to sit around for the next year, and you guys disregard our careers, what our plans are, and how we feel, while we wait for LeBron to decide whether he's staying or going? That's really what I drew from that comment.
That's interesting because if you listen to that, you look at someone like Tristan Thompson, you look at someone like J.R. Smith, who last summer signed a deal for multiple years with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they're very close friends with J.R. Smith and LeBron James. So LeBron says, oh, we got to get this guy's contract, get him his contract. Then they get him his contract, and here we are a year later where it looks like J.R. Smith will still be in Cleveland Cavaliers uniform and LeBron James will not. Is this just part of the business, or perhaps should have LeBron been more careful with these deals that he had his friends sign?
I think I need to come to the defense of LeBron James here.
Okay.
Against you, Richard Jefferson, and the contracts of Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith. Because I guarantee you, when they were sitting in the office about to ink those deals, they didn't say, you know what? Why don't you just give me a 2-year deal so I can figure out what LeBron's going to do? They was like, give me all of the years and all of the money you can.
Yes. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. It's hard to complain when you're making tens of $millions to play basketball and when you're being paid slightly above your market value for a team that's going to the finals. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Now, we've got some reports from Zach Lowe.
Get low. Get low.
He is saying that Cleveland is seeking a bundle of assets, but the highest priority right now is that they snag a blue-chip young player. Is this the right approach, and what blue-chip young players come to mind that could possibly be a return for Kyrie Irving?
It's the only approach, and I think what I'm going to do in this program one day is you see people throwing out a lot of theories about who, what, when, and where can possibly be in play for Kyrie Irving. You got to pay attention to it like this. The All-Stars that are capable of being moved likely have already happened this summer. Paul George and Jimmy Butler. There are a couple other All-Stars that haven't signed long-term contracts with their situations. Boogie Cousins and Isaiah Thomas come to mind. So when you talk about all of this movement and 5 teams that are on his wish list, in the NBA, you trade players, obviously, and you hope to get the same level of skill in return. But you're also trading salaries. And so it's going to be a lot tougher for people than people really realize for the Cavs to actually do this deal and get some fair market value.
Yes.
That's why what Zach Lowe's saying is the obvious choice. You want to get multiple players and a quote-unquote blue chipper. You know what that means? A guy that hasn't been an all-star yet. And you know what comes to mind? He said the Knicks. So what about Porzingis? Oh, he said Minnesota. What about Wiggins? So that's where that frame of reference comes from.
It will be interesting to see if they could land someone or a package that includes those type of players, because it seems like every day that goes by, it seems more intimate that Kyrie Irving is going to be traded. And when you know a team wants to trade an asset, it just devalues that asset. And you also wonder what Kyrie Irving's thinking right now. There's all of this going on. There's so much noise in the media, and you wonder what he's thinking. We get a small little glimpse into what he's thinking through his social media. There was a post on social media, not by Kyrie Irving, but he did like it. It is on the left side of a table, growth. On the right side of the table, comfort. And growth is saying to comfort, this is just not going to work out. What? Is this intentional from Kyrie Irving?
It's so Black Mamba-ish.
Good
it
point.
really is.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
No doubt about it. And I can't be mad at this frame of reference. The bottom line is this. It's hard to go against what everyone likes. So if you oppose something that has to do with LeBron James, everybody going to look at you sideways.
Of course.
But he has the opportunity for growth in his career, or he has the opportunity to stay comfortable playing alongside LeBron James, and like you said, making it to the NBA Finals potentially for the 4th straight year.
I like comfort. I like to be comfortable. I like the NBA Finals. I don't know, Kyrie.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Jalen Rose, nothing makes me happier than we get to legitimately mention the Podfather, Bill Simmons, on our program.
About 6 years ago, this summer, I did some circling around an ESPN after party during the ESPYs. And I discovered one Bill Simmons, having an amazing time at the W Hotel, on the roof, just doing what adults do. And I just sat in the cut and watched. And I was like, after a couple of adult beverages, now it's my chance to strike. And I go over to Mr. Simmons and I say, how you doing? I'm Jalen Rose. Very nice to meet you. He says, I know who you are. I said, Mr. Simmons, your website, Grantland, would you consider giving me a podcast for that amazing creation that you're starting? He was like, hit me up on Monday. We'll talk about it. Get out of my face. Exactly. He didn't say the last part, but that's what he was thinking. So you know what I did? I called him at 9 a.m. on Monday. It took me 3 months to finally meet with him. And lo and behold, guess who else was in that meeting?
David Jacoby. And here we are 6 years later. I think that a large percentage of ESPN programming are the results of SB after parties. But let's move on. Bill Simmons is breaking news in the NBA. He tweeted, quote, have a scoop. Oklahoma City and Carmelo are officially circling each other. Oklahoma City's Troy Weaver recruited Melo to Cuse and has known him since the DMV days. Jalen Rose, can you see any way that Carmelo Anthony ends up joining Westbrook and Paul George on the Thunder?
I want to give our brother Bill Simmons a Dairy Queen double scoop.
Okay.
This trades a lot of times are about relationships. And what many people don't know is the general manager of the Oklahoma City Thunder, his name is Sam Presti. Mm-hmm. And you know who was on his staff in Seattle when they drafted Kevin Durant? One Scott Perry, who's now the general manager of
the New York Knickerbockers. Dairy Queen double scoop, Dairy Queen double scoop.
So now all of a sudden, these deals start to make more sense when synergy happens. You add Paul George to the mix. You already have the MVP, Russell Westbrook, in the mix. And you have a plethora of bigs at your disposal that have big contracts. In particular, Adams and Cantor.
Exactly. And here's the thing, is because our staff doesn't really trust us, they give us research and they give us the salaries and the potential of how this would possibly work out. It looks like in order to make this work, you'd have to move Adams or Cantor. And if you're the New York Knicks, you're trying to get young. You're trying to have players that you bring in, like Tim Hardaway Jr., that have potential to grow over time and become stars. They're not necessarily in the market for established veteran players that don't have an upside to get much better, like Adams and Cantor, although they are very effective. Could you see this actually happening to make the salaries work, where the Thunder say goodbye to one of their big men, one of the Stash brothers, and send him east, sending Carmelo west?
Well, let me just say this. It will not be Adams.
Okay.
If you're OKC, you don't part ways with him, because the level of intensity, defense, and rebounding that he can give you, you just can't go out and replace. Cantor is an interesting prospect. Now, on the defensive end, he can't guard a graveyard. But on the offensive end, nice feet,
great
soft
touch,
hands, really good finisher. And in the Eastern Conference, I'm putting this on wax right now, he's going to be punishing teams up front on the offensive end. Like, he's going to come straight to the East and average like 18 or 20.
If you're Enes Kanter and you hear this, you obviously trust Bill Simmons because, he's never tweeted anything that didn't come true. And you're like, you know what? I think I could be an all-star in the East. Like this on the board that I could be in the all-star game in Staples Center if I'm in the East. And if I'm in the Western Conference, I might not start. I might not even start for the Thunder. Who knows?
When you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, you can pick out a squad and look at who they play at the 4 and look at who they play at the 5. Usually that's not a bruiser. Therefore, mark this down. If and when Cantor gets to the East, he's going to be punishing teams on the offensive end.
I love the Stash brothers so much. I want them to stay together. Finally, we're moving on to a gentleman who will be in the Eastern All-Star team for quite some time. Of course, I am talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Not just D.D., who's got D.D., what did the frequency?
Remember, he was tweeting about Kendrick Lamar and how he's got loyalty in his DNA and, how he's going to stay with the Bucks. Well, he's got a very interesting quote that might not necessarily back that up. He said, quote, "A lot of people say they're going to stay with the team and decide to move with different teams. But you guys got to remember, a guy might want to stay with the team, but the team doesn't do the right things or the right moves for the player to become great." Interesting. Now, he's on contract to stay with the Bucs for quite some time, but do you agree with his philosophy?
Well, he's just putting the Bucs on notice, like, I'm watching the moves you guys are making. And this summer, we didn't make any big splashes.
People talked about us getting some guys, and we got nobody.
But here's also some ownership that has to come with being the best player on the squad that kind of gets overlooked by fans and media. It's also up to a player like Antetokounmpo to get guys to want to come run with him.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
It's almost like rec ball. You ask people, though, you want to run with my squad? You want to run with us? That's what happens. Or when somebody's playing good on the court, you save a spot for them.
When they lose, you pick him real quick. Oh, yeah. I'm a great rec ball GM, by the way. One of the best that ever lived.
No doubt. So that's also an onus that comes with being the team that is in charge of putting together a roster. But the first time around, LeBron couldn't get people to come run with him in Cleveland. The second time around, he was able to.
Sure was.
So that's also the charge of the Greek Freak. And he's a terrific player. The only guy, and as long as we know the lead to be in the top 20 in the league in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals, a terrific prospect is going to continue to improve.
And they have some great prospects around him. I love Brogdon, and I love Thon Maker. Moving on, we can't go through a segment without talking about Kyrie. There's an anonymous Cavs player who had this to say about Kyrie. Quote, "Sure, we've had our fair share of moments and kind of chaotic times, and that's obviously been well documented. But at the same time, we've had a lot of joy. I hope Kyrie is with us. That's all I got to say. At the end of the day, we're pretty bleeping good." Do you think the Cavs want Kyrie to stay with the Cavs?
Absolutely. And if I had to put a name behind that quote, I would say the new and improved Tristan Thompson. Because he's been there with him basically the longest, and they've seen the lottery days and the championship days together. And so with that, if you look deeper into it, Kyrie signed his max deal without realizing LeBron was coming back. He was always he was an all-star in his own right. He was Team USA before he ever played with LeBron James. I remember saying this constantly. But you know what else? Tristan Thompson, good looking, Brian. You helped validate me, get me paid, bro.
Yep.
So we want Kyrie to come back, but if he don't, I understand.
I totally understand. I understand Tristan Thompson, too. He's like, wait a second, if LeBron leaves and Kyrie leaves, it's me and J.R. Smith, you know?
I thought you have some low-hanging fruit right there. You're supposed to say if Kyrie leaves and LeBron leaves, the Kardashians leave.
Oh, great point. Great point, Mr. Rose. I was just lobbing that up for you. Way to dunk it home. The Spurs did something very unspursy. They signed Pau Gasol to a 3-year, $48 million contract. The third year is only partially guaranteed. Did the Spurs overpay Pau Gasol?
Who's that peeking in my window? Pow! He like, where do I sign? This is one of the most eye-popping deals that I recall the Spurs actually inking pen to paper. At this point of Pau's career, he's a defensive liability, not only in the paint, but clearly in pick-and-roll situations. While still very skilled on the offensive end, will have his moments where he can score the basketball, still a really good passer, in particular from the high post. But big men are hard to come by in today's game, especially those that are going to be able to fit into their culture. So for him to opt out of 1 year and $16 million, and in theory now get 2 years, $32 million, doesn't seem like something the Spurs would be doing, especially for a 37-year-old big. but that's the market these days.
And here's the thing is when we all heard that he opted out, we're like, ooh, this is savvy. The Spurs are going to give him less money now, but spread it out over a longer contract, so he ends up essentially getting the same amount of money, but it gives them more flexibility to go after a Chris Paul or to go after another big-name free agent next year. But now it just sort of seems like they doubled down on Pau Gasol. Let's remind you that Pau Gasol averaged 7.7 points in the playoffs this year. And you look at his minute totals, he played probably 29 minutes, I think was his high, but that was at the end of that Warriors series when it was basically already decided. He had his high in the playoffs was 14 points. Why would you pay Pau Gasol this much money to play basketball for you?
After working the NBA draft, when you said average 7.7 points, I'm like, he going in the lottery. I think a lot of times it's really a function of familiarity, and he's a center. Mm-hmm. And if you look around the league, there aren't many quality skilled bigs that are available for the Spurs to get on a 1 or 2 year contract type situation. And also you want to keep your options open to see what bigs may shake loose. Looking at you, Boogie Cousins.
Here's what it is Coach Popovich just likes old guys. That's what he likes. He likes old guys. He likes to have old guys around. That's all it is. Like, that's what it comes down to. He's like, Manu, come back. Pau, let's sign him again. I want the oldest team in the NBA. I don't need young people learning how to play this game. Now we have this. In all that's happening with the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have finally named their general manager. Kobe Altman has been named the general manager. He was an assistant general manager under David Griffin. And now he's been leapfrogged up into the top spot as the general manager. Is it a good time to get this promotion, or is it a bad time to get this promotion?
If you him, it's a great time. You gonna give me the job? Thanks a lot. Mm-hmm. Especially for a team that had so much success over the previous 3 years. You win a championship and make it to the finals for 3 straight years, usually you don't fire your GM.
Great point.
And so for him to be able to inherit that situation on a team that still has LeBron James, the best player in the game, and 2 other All-Stars in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, now you get a chance to put your fingerprints clearly on the squad because you may be a guy that's the lead domino to trading Kyrie Irving. And how that return happens is going to determine a lot of his trajectory.
And with Jalen Rose, especially when taking on a new job, where do I like the expectations?
Very low.
This is perfect for him. He's like, look, if it doesn't work out, he's like, you gave me a team that was completely falling apart in shambles. Of course it didn't work out great. And if it does work out, he says, you gave me a team that's completely falling apart in shambles, and I'm the reason that tied it all together. I love this for him. Good for him. Shout out to Kobe Altman. Next, we have this. The Timberwolves put out a video, not a 30 for 30, a 0 for 30, about one of our favorite people on the planet, Dave Chappelle. They have some old footage of Chappelle playing in Minnesota basketball. Let's just say his field goal percentage wasn't the best. They showed a basically clip reel of him missing shot after shot after shot from 15 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, missing all of them. You know my theory. You can be mean if you're funny. Were the Timberwolves wrong for editing together this video and clowning Dave Chappelle?
Not at all. It's really funny, and I'm pretty sure nobody will enjoy it more than he does. And the first thing that stood out to me is, looks like he was hitting the weights.
It sure does.
Once you get a level of diesel, it affects your jump shot.
And
it truly does.
It's Minnesota. Put on a shirt, Dave Chappelle. He's got this tank top. Dave Chappelle, when he left the Chappelle show, he hit the gym. That's really what happened. Moving on to my favorite topic of the day. The Philadelphia Phillies aren't playing great baseball, but that doesn't mean you can't have a good time at the ballpark. Look at this dude. We've got my man who's got great seats right behind home plate. Not only does he have great seats, he has a great approach to watching baseball. Double fisting beers, rotating back and forth, not only in the 4th inning, not only in the 5th inning, but all the way until the 7th inning, he is double fisting beers. Are you more impressed or concerned about this Phillies fan?
I'm so impressed, I'm going to call that a boss move.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
It truly is, because you're enjoying the ball game.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing you.
Mm-hmm. We're
talking about it on our program. And it's going to lead to more publicity for this man who was just having a good time at the game.
Good for him.
It's something that every guy would do if he's a beer drinker.
Of course. And one thing I love about this is, I think at first I thought he was with his family at the game, but then as more people started to leave the game, he's just by himself. And it's like, good for him, man. He's doing him so hard. I love people enjoying themselves and doing what they do best. And this gentleman clearly is best at double fisting and pounding canned beer. Another update for LeBron James and how much money he is making. A while ago, LeBron James, Maverick Carter, and their financial advisor, Paul Wachter, Google Paul Wachter, you'll understand how LeBron James makes a lot of his savvy business decisions. They made less than $1 million investment in Blaze Pizza in 2012. Now our Darren Ravel is saying that $1 million investment, slightly less than that, has led to a $25 million stake in Blaze Pizza. Shout to him. But what I really want to do is just take a look at an order of Blaze Pizza that LeBron James once made. You could build your own pizza at Blaze Pizza. He had a pizza with high-rise dough, spicy red sauce, shredded mozzarella, Parmesan, grilled chicken, turkey meatballs, banana peppers, cherry tomatoes, fresh basil, garlic, green bell peppers, camelata olives, red onions, spinach, sea salt, oregano, arugula, olive oil drizzle, and then ordered a s'more pie. Jalen Rose, is that the order of a sober individual?
That should count as a failed drug test.
It really should. It really should. I'm surprised.
Once Adam Silver, who I know watches this fine program.
Of course he does.
Here's about that pizza order. LeBron, like Jeremy Lin, is going to show up at camp, and they're just going to usher him through the front of the line. You got a failed test already. You don't have to worry about the cup. You don't have to worry about going to the bathroom. We got you.
We saw the pizza order. It's over. Shout out to LeBron and his ridiculous Blaze Pizza order.
Shout out.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Jalen, a lot of things get discussed in sports media. Some things are worth discussion and some things are not. We make the difference right here on Jalen Jacoby. If you want to talk about it, we will hit the brakes and discuss the topics. If it's not worthy of discussion, we will simply keep it moving. First up, the Cowboys have released Lucky Whitehead. Keep it moving or hit the brakes?
Hit the brakes.
Now, this is interesting. We all saw that Lucky Whitehead's dog was being held for ransom and then was eventually returned. And now, Lucky Whitehead was charged with shoplifting about $200 worth of items from a Wawa in Virginia in June. He also missed a court date in July regarding that charge. The Cowboys found out about this, and then they cut him. However, he claims he wasn't even in Virginia and that he has the flight tickets to prove it. The police department in Virginia has now come out and said they misidentified Lucky Whitehead, which leads to this question. Should the Cowboys have listened to Whitehead tell his side of the story before they cut him?
If they felt his off-field distractions were trumped by his on-field production, they would have kept him. Because we saw this happen in Dallas before, where they had players stealing from the department store and still remained a part of the team for a short period of time. So with that being said, $200, you in the NFL, I got to release you.
Here's another thing. Lucky Whitehead today has to be like, have you seen what Ezekiel Elliott's been doing? Like, have you even seen what Ezekiel Elliott's been doing? And then whoever reps the Cowboys is like, have you seen what Ezekiel Elliott's been doing on Sundays last year? And that's the difference. It is true. Like, we always talk about morality in sports and whether or not, like, these athletes are good people. But there is a thing. If you perform on the field, teams are a lot more lenient with the things that you do off the field. It shouldn't be that way, but that's just the way it is.
And it reminds me of Paid in Full, when Lucky tells his mom, I don't feel so lucky anymore, Mom. Don't call me. That's been a while since I found some money on the floor. That's how he feels today.
Adorable dog, though. Moving on. Mike Tyson has some thoughts about McGregor Mayweather. Keep it moving or hit the brakes?
Hit the brakes.
Oh, okay.
Iron Mike.
Iron Mike was on, I believe, the Pardon My Take podcast. He was on a Barstool podcast, and he said this, quote, McGregor is going to get killed boxing. I got mad because I thought they were going to use MMA rules against boxing because that's what it's all about. Can the boxer beat the MMA guy? Do you think it would be more interesting if they fought with boxing rules or MMA rules?
Boxing rules. Because you got to take the combatants into play.
Yep.
And I don't see Floyd doing any wrestling, any grappling, not being kicked or hit in any way, shape, or form other than a traditional boxing ring.
And when you watch...
also, you take the fight because you know you're going to crush this guy who's had as many professional fights as I have.
Another thing is when you watch McGregor's UFC fights, even when they go to the ground, he much prefers to stand and strike anyway. So it is sort of like a natural max. It would, if they both were grappling and doing MMA rules, they would both be sort of out of their comfort zone. Moving on, Jordan Spieth returned home with his family after winning the British Open. Would you like to know what they did? Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Keep it moving, especially after what him and his caddy did.
There is a
Sunday.
6'4", 286-pound 8th grader who's being heavily recruited. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
This gentleman not only is being heavily recruited as a football player, he's already visited the Alabama campus. He also plays basketball and throws an 84-mile-an-hour pitch in baseball. What do you think about him?
I have a few questions.
You know I don't like follow-up questions. You know I don't like follow-up questions, Mr. Rose.
All I know is this. Maize and blue looks good on you, young man.
Here's what my concern is as a parent, is you can't shop at Whole Foods. You got a 286-pound teenager in the house.
Wow.
Like you got to get everything at Costco. Like you definitely live in that Kirkland life if you've got a 286-pound teenager. That's what's really up. Next, we have an update. You can buy Conor McGregor's suit from that famous press conference at the Staples Center. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
I was on stage that day. Keep it moving.
Tim Tebow is tearing it up in the minor leagues. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Keep it moving.
Two men were arrested attempting to buy drugs at a Hartford police station.
Hit the brakes.
Now, this is interesting. These two gentlemen were in the parking lot of the Hartford police station, close to Bristol, Connecticut, mind you, and then an officer just finished his shift and was walking through the parking lot when these two men approached him and said, "Can we buy some cocaine from you?" And the officer was like, "Sure, whatever." And then he pointed them to the ATM in the lobby of the police station for them to take out money. And when they got there, they were subsequently arrested. Jalen Rose, your thoughts on this topic?
This is your brain on drugs.
Well, I cannot confirm that this is true, but because of the proximity to Bristol, Connecticut, it may be true. I think it was Kornheiser and Wilbon. I think it was Kornheiser and Wilbon. That's who it was. I don't know if that's true.
No, I know who it was.
I don't know if that's true.
No,
I think it was Kornheiser and Wilbon.
No, it was Bomani and Pablo.
Oh, Bomani and Pablo. They're developing a show. You know, gotta do what you gotta do. Moving on before we get fired. A Wisconsin tech company wants to put microchips in their employees. Keep moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
What they want to do is put a single grain of rice-sized microchip into the employees, and what it would do is it would act the same way your badge does, get you in and out of buildings, you can buy food at the caf. It seems to make perfect sense to me. I actually support this. I know there are going to be so many people, "Oh, don't put microchips inside of me, blah, blah, blah." I support this. It just makes things easier. I don't want to show my badge when I go in the building. You can just scan my hand or whatever. Something tells me you don't share my opinion.
I don't share your opinion at all because these are the same type of things you inherit when you use a company phone, when you use a company email.
Ask Hugh Freeze.
And before you know it, that blows up in your face.
Let me tell you something. I have nothing to hide. Put the rice microchip in me right now. Put it in me right now. I will take that. ESPN, once you have a rice microchip, I will be your guinea pig. Feel free to put it inside me.
You're such a sellout.
You're right.
Man.
I got nothing to hide. Hundreds of sheep were chased off a cliff by a bear. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Keep it moving.
You know I wanted to talk about that one, too. Michael Bennett has a book coming out. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
I love Michael Bennett, but keep it moving. We'll talk about it when the book hits the shelves.
The Chinese Soccer Super League is in crisis. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Keep it moving.
RG3 is going to work out for the Chargers. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Who?
RG3, Robert Griffin III.
Oh, keep it moving.
Last one. The Eagles has signed a rugby player to play tight end. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
We're not going to force football topics, and we're not going to say, so who's going to win the division? Keep it moving.
So we're going to keep it moving. Jalen Rose, LeBron James has stayed mainly quiet throughout all of this chaos and controversy surrounding the Cavaliers, but he has now spoken. He took to Twitter not to say much, but to deny some of the reports that have been swirling about him and the Kyrie Irving trade. He cited a Slam Magazine tweet and post, and he said, "Not facts, people. Boo. Get another source. Hashtag, I'm enjoying my summer. Hashtag, you do the same." What do you think he is saying with this tweet?
It's pretty straightforward. He didn't mince any words while getting directly to the point of Kyrie Irving acknowledged that he wanted to be traded and because he doesn't want to play with LeBron James anymore. But in return, I don't have to say anything. He's already put it out there. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's about winning championships at this point in my career. I want to see what we're getting in return. Other than that, we got to find a way to make this thing happen, go into training camp, and worst case scenario, try to win and best case scenario, try to win the Eastern Conference and then focus on winning the NBA championship.
I do feel like he was enjoying his vacation, and he had said that he's going to let the front office deal with all of this, and he's just going to chill. But some of the reports just up the ante and then up the ante again. They're saying that he was eager to have Kyrie traded. There was talk about physical confrontation between him and Kyrie, and he got to the point where he was like, "Oh man, like I'm going to have to put down this cocktail. I'm going to have to actually address this one and deny it." And I totally understand why he did it.
And he posted it twice.
Sure did. What do we do on this show, Jalen Rose?
Give the people what they want.
We give the people what they want. We give the people what they want. Part of giving the people what they want is going to our Twitter feed, trolling on our subreddit, and listening to our voicemails. You can leave us a voicemail by calling 985-80-JALEN, but we start with our Twitter feed. Big news, Jalen, from Gerson Racing. A horse running Friday at Del Mar in the first race is named Boss Move. They named it after our segment on the show. Jalen Rose, we are 1,000% somehow, someway going to gamble on this horse. How much money are you willing to put up for Boss Move?
I'll put up a G.
No, you won't. Jalen, see, that's the thing. You know that there's microphones recording you right now. When you say something like that, I know you're not going to put up a G. So let's revise that, okay? How much money are you going to bet on Boss Move?
I need to check the odds first.
Well, here's the thing is, I've never heard of Boss Move before, so I think this Boss Move is early in his career. So I don't know if I'm going to put up a G. I might put up like a lowercase G, you know? I might put up like $50 for him to come in like 6th. Shout to Boss Move, though, and shout to Gerson Racing, my new favorite racing conglomerate in the world of horse racing.
No doubt.
If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us voicemails. You can do so. We listen to them, and then we play them on the show, just like this.
Hey, what's going on, Jalen and Jacoby? This is Sean from the SIP. Do you think LeBron James is difficult to play with? I would imagine so, because he had a lot of players on his team that just seemed like they were scared to do anything when he was on the floor.
Do you think LeBron James is difficult to play with?
I do not. I think LeBron James is a uniter. He's unselfish. He can flirt with a triple-double on a given night. I just think what ends up happening is being the best player in the game, along with being the most powerful person probably in sports, those worlds a lot of times divulge. And in the locker room dynamic, when people see how much power you have, along with the productivity, it can be a little uncomfortable when you're able to swing the heavy hammer in so many different situations.
I totally understand. I think it is difficult to play with LeBron James. He demands a lot of his teammates. You know what else is difficult? Going to the NBA Finals. And do you know what he does? Goes to the NBA Finals every single year. So it's like, yeah, is it comfortable in the locker room all the time? Does he sometimes use the media and social media to speak to his players and discipline them? Yes, he totally does that. It is difficult to play with LeBron James, but it's totally worth it, especially when you win championships with LeBron James. We'll be back tomorrow, Jalen and Jacoby, if they don't cancel us in the meantime. You know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe LeBron will tweet us about our sources. Who knows?
Thank you.
Who knows what can happen? Anything can happen.
Thank you.